Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Bedstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, race fans, to another jam-packed episode of MASH, the Gas Podcast. We're here to break down all of the action from the Goodyear 400 Darlington Raceway. My name, Kevin Batstone. Joining me shortly, Mr. Jeff Davis. And joining me now, Miss NASCAR Sky. Sky, who mashed it this weekend in Darlington?
This is such an easy one. Tyler Reddick has been on fire. I don't know what they fed him in the offseason, but it is working. I mean, he overcame his cool suit malfunctioning because the battery wasn't working. I mean, the team replaced the battery mid-race, which was such a good call to get that done earlier rather than later. They knew they had a fast car. I mean, he absolutely killed it. So the 45, Tyler Reddick, mashed the gas the hardest.
And he did a wonderful job at it. I mean, he raced everyone super hard. I know, Brad Keselowski, he got into his back left rear quarter panel a little bit. The 45 did. And Brad, after the race, was just kind of like, yeah, it is what it is. It's racing. It's just the way things go. But other people were not so happy with the way they got raced by Tyler. But, like you said, I don't know what they're feeding him either, Sky, because he is now only the third driver in history to win 4 of the first 5 sixes of any season. He joins Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt Sr. to be one of those only 3 drivers to do that. And that's just phenomenal. And the Toyotas have got something going right now. I mean, we saw kind of a mixed bag in the finishing this week, but there were a lot of surprises that I didn't expect. But yeah, you are correct. Tyler Reddick, he is definitely on fire.
Yeah, those guys are just so happy. 23-11. Michael Jordan, just living the dream. I mean, Jeff, you nailed it. 4 wins out of the first 6 races. Only Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt have done that. I mean, just elite company there. It led 77 laps. Cool suit malfunction. It was super hot down there in Darlington. I mean, they were so fast, like, let's just change the battery. We'll put a bigger one in, and we'll just pass the field again. And that's exactly what they did, just methodically worked through the field. I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to get around the 6, but after that last pit stop there, the 6 came in a little earlier than the 45. He was just lights out, blew by him. Race stayed green. I thought we might get a caution with Kyle Larson there when he lost that toe link, not making minimum speed, but the race stayed green, gets it done. I thought it was a fantastic race. This horsepower package, I didn't see a ton of difference from previous Darlingtons. We didn't see the tire wear that I thought we were going to see. They certainly went through a lot of them here. Old Goodyear 400, a lot of Goodyear tires, but we just didn't see the tire fall off that I was expecting to see.
Yeah, I can agree there. And I did just want to bring up RFK. I mean, I was shocked that Brad, because I don't want to say I was too shocked, but Brad has just been surprised me a lot this year. I guess he's like the complete opposite of Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott breaks his leg or whatever and stumbled for so long. And here comes Brad coming back and just doing so well. I'm pretty sure he's, 9th in points too, which again, I know it's only 6 races in, but that's pretty impressive compared to the other years for them. And RFK as a whole, I mean, for Brad to win both stages, I know that they all got points throughout there. I was just super, super impressed with them. But I did want to, Tyler Reddick, I know we jump around, but he is almost 100 points above second place Ryan Blaney in the points right now. That, I know we don't want to talk about points too much. It's early, but that is just, I don't even have a word. Incredible, crazy. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's those extra 15 points you're getting for the win is what's really helped him out. Because if he didn't have those, he'd only be, I think, about 37 points to the positive. But this race had, to me, a lot of different surprises. To see RFK do as good as they did, just like last week, we were like, man, RFK had a good week last week. This week, they had 2 drivers in the top 10, and, Ryan Preece is only P13. So not too bad of a team effort there. And, Austin Cindric, another Ford, didn't finish too well in the last few races, and all of a sudden he got a top 5. So I thought it was cool to see kind of a mixed bag of guys in there that we're not really used to. Daniel Suarez has had his ups and downs, and he finished in the 7 car in P7. Pretty darn cool. So, like I said a minute ago, Eric Jones is pretty pissed at Tyler Reddick and amongst some other drivers. We'll get in that in a little bit between, Denny Hamlin and the things that Bubba Wallace had to say about it. But I thought it was a really good race. I love the 750 package. We saw a lot of passing, and, there weren't a whole lot of cautions, which is fine with me. But there was just really, really good racing this weekend, guys.
Yeah, good old school racing, Jeff, for sure. And that's what the drivers wanted with this horsepower package. I just was expecting to see more tire fall off, with the hot temperatures, how abrasive that that surface is, but it just wasn't there. But it did create for great passing. We looked at Penske. I mean, what a comeback for Ryan Blaney. After 3 loose lug nuts in 2 races, those guys have got to tighten it up. No pun intended. But his teammate, old Joey Logano there, I was texting Sky during the race yesterday. Those guys just completely missed the setup. One of the worst race cars Joey said he's ever been in. They went through all the simulation the week leading up to it, and they just completely missed the setup. I don't expect that to be the case when we go back for the Southern 500.
Yeah, I would hope not. Learn what you got to do here. You made your mistake, whatever. One thing I will say is I almost wish they would have switched the 12 and the 22 crew. I just feel like from a team standpoint, you could tell very early on the 22 was not competitive, that it wasn't going to be competitive. They kept swinging and missing, and Joey was just so unhappy. And to have the 12 team, I don't know. Like usually Penske, all of their pit crews as a whole are always really, really well. I'm pretty sure Logano's pit crew is one of the top 10 right now. It's just so unfortunate, especially for Blaney, because Blaney is so talented. I mean, he is running circles upon circles above his teammates right now. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it sucks that he's getting, and he was showing his frustration on the radio, and I'm glad that he did. He wasn't like overly aggressive or mean, but he was like, come on, guys. I mean, this is crazy. This is ridiculous. And I agree. I mean, he works entirely too hard. He does a lot behind that race car. I hope they can get it together soon.
Yeah, you definitely heard it during the race. When he got on radio, he's like, come on, guys. You could almost feel the disappointment in him. So to see him still at least in second position in points as far as, races so far this year, he's still in a good spot. But they do need to tighten it up. All 3 of us were texting back and forth about Blaney during the race yesterday. We're like, come on, man. Like Kevin mentioned, 3 times in the last 2 races, you've had a loose lug. And that's why we've kind of talked about, do we really want a single lug, or do we go back to the 5? And then we get into, when they had the 5, Kevin, I know you remember this, when they used to just put 4 lugs on there so they could just shave just an extra maybe half a second off and get you out of pit lane and on the track again. And then they stopped that and said, no, you have to have all 5 on. But we're seeing too many loose wheels, just like we did last year. So I don't know if they'll change it. They probably won't. But overall, like I said, yeah, I was really impressed with the drivers. And, hey, look at even Hurricane Hocevar, man, getting a P4 out of it. And I was kind of laughing a little bit pre-race because, like, he did the throwback of, Dale Sr.'s just the wrap on the car. The throwback was great. But then he wore that cowboy hat of Richard Petty's, basically. I thought, I was like, did he go to Richard Petty and, like, just borrow his hat for that interview? So it was cool. And even Dale Sr. tweeted out that he was thoroughly impressed. He loved the paint scheme. Thought it was really cool. So again, he went out there, put on a good show, and came in P4.
That's one thing I love about this race is they do the throwback weekend. We saw RFK pretty much give a huge nod to the Biff, be like Biff. They all carried some different paint schemes on there. We touched on a great day for them. Good momentum for Brad Keselowski. I know he's chasing that winless streak, but the way that these guys are running, the speed that they're bringing, I think RFK is probably the best forwards of the field right now outside of Ryan Blaney and Penske. But, going back to that pit road deal, we talked about this a few weeks ago, another kind of lucky break for Blaney that he was able to pull into another Ford teammate's pit stall and get that thing on there. Had that been Tyler Reddick, same thing we saw in Phoenix with Joey Logano, the pole sitter, those guys would have ended up with a penalty. So it's night and day difference on your pit selection when you run into those scenarios. I understand they want to keep the wheel off the racetrack and keep, people from getting suspended, but it's almost kind of an unfair advantage for those guys to have that situation where if you're the pole sitter like Tyler Reddick was, you go out and the wheel falls off, you're in a totally different boat.
Yeah, I guess it really just comes down to how lucky you are and how the stuff falls. I think that, I don't know. Kevin, you're so good at making me like, I think I have an opinion on something and then you talk and then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Now you're bringing up a lot of good points. It does cause a little bit of an unfair advantage. It just comes down to how lucky you are. I don't know. It's a really good point. I'd like to see it stick around just for the safety aspect, but maybe they could do something with like a stricter penalty or something to kind of make it even out in the fairness. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, NASCAR is going to do what they're going to do. We know that. And I don't think they're going to do anything about it. They really won't, unless it starts to become a super problem. And it hasn't really yet, but it is apparent out there. But, some of the drivers that I wanted to talk about a little bit, I'm looking at, like, let's say Chase Elliott right now, sitting fifth position in points right now. He's done a pretty damn good job. This last weekend, he only got a P15 out of it. He's only led 13 laps this entire year. So, I mean, we were only 6 races in, but only leading 13 laps and be able to be in fifth position in points is pretty damn cool. So he's hitting his stages. He's making the most out of it, and he's getting really good finishes. So there's drivers out there that are hitting the points, and then there's drivers out there that are just not doing very well at all. I mean, you guys want to talk about Connor Zilic yet?
Well, what do you have to say?
Connor Zilic immediately, when that caution came out, was like, hey, that was my fault. Tell him it was my fault. Tell him to go F off is exactly what he said. He wasn't going to have it. But, at least he owned up to it. It wasn't intentional. It was just tempers flaring. And that's what we see at Darlington. That's just one of the tracks we always see it.
Yeah, I agree. But there is also a big difference between my fault and I'm sorry, for sure. I think that maybe, if he worded it better instead of just being like my fault, and I'm sorry probably goes a lot further. I mean, they brought this up a few weeks ago with Ross and Joey early in the season when they had that little mishap that Joey literally went and called Ross throughout the week to just kind of talk it over and apologize. And Kevin Harvick and stuff in the booth, they were saying how important that is and how it's hard to do, but it goes a long way. And so I think that's something that he's just going to learn being in the sport. He's pretty low in points right now, but I have a lot of faith in him on the road courses. He's such a talented kid. I don't know if maybe he makes the playoffs the chase this year. But maybe he'll get like a win on the season.
It'll probably come on a road course. I mean, he's got those Cup Series rookie growing pains to go through. A lot of pressure on him. At 19 years old to come up to the Cup level. Most of the 19-year-old kids are still competing in trucks. Some of them are fortunate enough to be in the O'Reilly Series. So to be a Cup ride, the pressure's on. We've kind of seen Trackhouse and where they're stacking up. We know their road course program is great. Ross Chastain has some speed at times. Ross is going to be Ross. We talked last week about the interaction with him and Suarez. On Tuesday, he came out, gave a little bit of a press briefing about it and said he just flat out doesn't like Daniel Suarez and says that they never got along when they were teammates. They just personality conflict, and that's going to happen. But, everybody has to kind of play nice in the sandbox or you're going to create a lot of enemies out there, and that's not going to work out too well in your favor, Jeff.
No, it's not. And Trackhouse right now, I think they're in a predicament right now. I'm not seeing positive momentum going. I think they're actually coming down, and I don't know what it is because, we know Chastain is a damn good driver. He's done a lot better in the last 2 years, but as an organization, they're just not hitting their marks right now. A minute ago, we were just talking about Chase Elliott earning points. And so far, the average finish this year, of course, Tyler Reddick got the best average finish in the first 6 races. His average finish is actually 4.17. Second was actually Chase Elliott. So his average finish is just a little bit above 10.33. And Ryan Blaney, one of Sky's favorites would be 10.83 in P3 as far as average finishes this year. So to come out and see these finishes and the way Tyler Reddick is just crushing it. I mean, guys, he won this race by over almost 6 seconds in the lead, 5.8 seconds. And you just can't catch up with that. Again, Reddick is just on fire. And I think it's fun to watch. I just want to see what records he's going to be able to break other than that we already talked about so far.
They've got something figured out, like we talked about at the top of the show, and he's got momentum on his side. I mean, 4 wins. We talked about the major point advantage. Ryan Blaney did move up to that second spot, but still 95 points behind the leader. I mean, that's just such a cushion. Sure, we're only 6 races in. We've still got 20 to go until the start of the chase. A lot can happen between now and then. I think Hendrick Motorsports is still kind of trying to figure out where they're at with the 750 package. I mean, we have such high expectations out of HMS. I mean, they have three of their drivers in the top 10 in points. So, I mean, they're in good position. We're just not seeing them lead laps. Kyle Larson's obviously on a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a winless streak, but it's starting to stack up that way.
Well, to talk a little bit more about Hendrick, it's kind of interesting. For the first 6 races of any season, this is the longest dry spell to a season since 2019. One of their drivers has always won one of the first 6 races. So far this year, it just hasn't happened.
That makes me worried that the second half of the year, they're going to go crazy. And they're not going to be able to be stopped.
Get on that heater again,
usually how it goes. Yeah. Yeah, they're just, I mean, we say that, but then you look and it's like, I mean, in the top 10, they're still doing well in points. I mean, they're maybe not as flashy as normal, but I don't know. I wouldn't worry too much. I do worry, that 48 ride. I feel like the longer he is out, the more I'm just like, someone else is probably going to end up occupying that ride. Hopefully, maybe they give him a second chance and he can get up there. But I'm impressed with Chase Elliott. The 5, he does really well. He didn't finish too well. Obviously, had that issue there, but he got stage points in both the stages. I mean, stuff like that adds up. That's exactly why you look at in third place in points, you're looking at Bubba Wallace, who maybe is definitely getting overshadowed by the 45, which is unfortunate because Bubba is doing really, really well. That 23, obviously, both teams are doing well, but he's not always finishing super flashy, but he's collecting a lot of stage points, and that's going to help you go really far.
Yeah, it is. And that's why he's still third in points, even after having a bad day in Darlington. Tough deal there because he had a lot of speed, sat second on the grid, fired off pretty fast, got caught up in some of the mayhem and just killed his day. But even with that bad day, he's still in a good points position. So that's why these points matter so much as we get deeper and deeper into the season. And on the 48, I mean, Justin Allgaier obviously doing the best he can filling in, won the O'Reilly Auto Parts race and then goes out and finishes P24. The 48's not putting up great finishes regardless of who's driving it, Jeff. So I think there's something deeper there, whether it's at a crew chief, car chief level. The 48 just doesn't have the speed. We know Alex Bowman's out until at least Kansas. They're saying he might be back for Kansas. It's a long time to be away from the race car.
It is, and I'm going to touch on both those subjects here. Justin Allgaier got his 30th win in the O'Reilly Parts Series. That puts him tied in 7th place with Joey Logano as far as the O'Reilly Series nationwide, Xfinity, whatever it's called. I know right now it's the O'Reilly Parts, but he's getting up there in points or as far as wins, and I think that's really cool for him. Like you were mentioning, Kevin. But as far as Bubba Wallace, yeah, he's doing really well. He's doing like Chase Elliott is. He's getting points, and that's what's keeping him up there, in the standings. And I think it's just a matter of time before, Bubba Wallace punches his ticket and, at least gets a win and gets the extra 15 points for the win. And maybe he'll beat Ryan Blaney. I don't know. He's only 25 points behind him right now. So, next week at the paperclip, eat those hot dogs, get all beefed up, get ready for the race, and keep those proteins in you. But it's going to be fun next week. But yeah, as far as Justin Allgaier, I'm trying to think about Alex Bowman. Justin Allgaier, I don't think will replace him. He's going to fill in some races, obviously. My personal opinion, I don't think he's going to have a ride with Hendrick next year. I think the 48 is going to go to somebody else. And I don't know where he would actually go because there's not too many seats open. This happens every single year. And I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Bowman literally takes a full year off. Now, that's just thoughts on what I'm thinking, but, we'll just have to see what happens, once he gets back in the car. But I don't think things are looking very good for Bowman and next year.
Like, he's sick, it sucks. You're sick. You can't race. And that's why I'm like, I hate to see him get kicked because he didn't have enough time to really prove himself. I'm just interested to see what happens when he gets back in the car. Because I mean, you go on a long enough winning streak or a hot enough streak. I mean, you're a little low. You're pretty low now, but maybe you could get up into the playoff, or oh my gosh, take the word playoff out of my system. The chase standings. I don't know. It is a sucky situation for him. I just don't know. At the same time, when you look at how, obviously we don't know these guys really, we only know what we see of them on social media and what they show us, when they're getting interviewed. I just don't know if he has quite the same fire as a lot of the other guys or the determination to maybe keep going as much. And I would just hate to see him go out. He's so young, and I feel like he has, a lot of potential left in him.
I think so too. I mean, he's racked up some wins with HMS in the past. He's, decent to the fans, to the sponsors. He's good for the sport. It's a tough deal. Like you said, I mean, vertigo is a nasty situation, an inner ear equilibrium. You can't race, when you're feeling that way. So it's, not his fault. But with this chase format now, it's going to be so difficult to get back into contention. I mean, maybe crack the top 16 if you go on a good run. But I just don't see a path for him to go win this championship, Jeff. It's so difficult. Years past, sure, you get the waiver, you get a win and you're in, and now everything's reset. But the way we race now in 2026, that's an uphill battle.
Well, he's 300. He's a little over 300 points in the negative. He's 302. He's dead last basically for full-time drivers. And I don't think it's just this season. I mean, yes, it is unfortunate that he's got the vertigo and some health issues. I'm not trying to play that into part of why he's going to probably lose his ride. I'm looking at the last couple of years. I mean, yeah, he's won a handful of races here and there, but Rick Hendrick, he's looking for guys that he wants in there for life, and they're winning all the time. Now, Chase Elliott, he's got to win some more races, but he's won quite a few more than Alex Bowman. But, obviously, most popular driver since, old Junebug dropped out. So, Chase Elliott, he's a good driver. Kyle Larson, great driver. These guys are killing it. William Byron, obviously, he's just up there. These guys get wins, and it's not just like one here and there. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at Alex Bowman, is looking at like maybe his last 3 to 4 years. I really like the guy. He is super nice, and he's great with his sponsors. Ally's a great sponsor. And, Ally, I think, is hooked up for another 2 to 3 years with Hendrick Motorsports, even if Bowman is not in the car. So we're just gonna have to see what happens. I do think it's unfortunate because he's a good guy, but I just don't see him in the 48 next year. You guys,
Which will be so interesting to see who they put in, and I'm still chanting Kyle Busch over and over because I would just love to see him in a competitive ride. But you do bring up a good point. We're looking at it like, oh, it's unfortunate now that he can't prove himself, but you are right. I mean, this is not the only year he's been in the 48. This is not the first time that we've had this conversation. I mean, fans for years, for a while that I can remember, we've always speculated if he was going to keep the 48, if he was going to get out, because he's never competed to the level of his teammates. Chase Elliott, I would say, especially recently, is kind of down a little lower. Ever since he broke his leg, he hasn't been quite the same. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. And it is really hard when your teammate is Kyle Larson. Some people say that he's the best driver in the world. So he's definitely going to make you look worse, even if you were at your best. It is just an unfortunate situation. I don't know. We'll have to see what Hendrick does for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be the mystery. I mean, I think I would love to see Kyle Busch, go finish up his career with Hendrick. I just don't know if Mr. H is going to make that move, but it would be good for Kyle to get into some decent equipment. I mean, it's just been a battle for him. He's already 219 points to the negative, 23rd in points. Qualified decent, was up in the top 10 for a bit, but just slowly kept sliding back. RCR, we talked about it last year, we talked about it this year. They just don't have the speed, and everyone wants to put it on Kyle Busch. It's just, I don't think it's a Kyle Busch issue, Jeff. I really do think it's an RCR problem. They just don't have the speed to compete. The Chevrolets in general, I think, are just a little bit behind where the Toyotas and even some of these Fords are right now. But we're only 6 races in. There's still time to turn this around.
there's another driver I do not see going next year is Kyle Busch. He will not be with RCR, is what I'm thinking. I don't think he's going to renew the contract. The equipment isn't there. He's been disappointed. We know he's one hell of a driver. And man, I have never seen him look so miserable in the last couple of years, whether you love him or hate the guy. I love that Kyle always said, you know what? I like it whether I get booed or not because I'm getting everybody's attention. He just loves to race, and going back to the Xfinity series or the O'Reilly series, he has the most wins of anyone. I think it's like 60 or something like that. But I don't think he'll be back at RCR. He's totally disappointed. Now, where he goes, I don't know. I agree with you guys. I would really like to see him maybe go out to Hendrick. I just don't think Mr. H would sign him. But it would be really cool to see him go in there and finish off his career. Now, where he goes, I don't know. I have a feeling, and this is just a feeling. What about Michael McDowell next year? Can he be in the 77 over there at Spire? Or is that a spot that maybe Kyle Busch could go land and see what he can do over there?
I think that Kyle Busch at Spire would be a good combination, but I don't know about McDowell. I feel like all the Spire guys are holding their own pretty well. I mean, McDowell in the 71's been really good. I mean, we know about Hocevar. And you look, and I wanted to bring this up earlier with Daniel Suarez. I mean, if I'm Trackhouse, you look at Connor Zillage, and don't get me wrong, I do think that it was the right move to put Zillage with Trackhouse, and unfortunately to bump Suarez. But you're looking at it now, Suarez is competing. He's getting stage points. He's, in the top. I think the only driver they have in the top is Shane Van Gisbergen. And so I don't know. You're looking at it and you're looking at Daniel Suarez, and I think it's a tough pill to swallow. But I think ultimately in the end, it'll all work out for them. But I don't know. I think that Michael McDowell is still pretty solid in that ride over at Spire.
Yeah, we talked about SPG getting better on the ovals, but it's still kind of sad when you're looking at Trackhouse in general. And I'm going to go back to Ross Chastain. He's not doing what he did the last couple of years. And again, is this an equipment issue? I don't know. Connor Zilic, I think, is great. And I really like Michael McDowell. He's a good road course winner, and he's 17th in points right now. But is he going to be there next year? I'm not sure. There's a lot of things that will happen that we can't even anticipate until we're probably getting down to like the last 10, 11 races. We'll get in a silly season when things start changing around and rumors start flying. You know what I mean, Kevin?
Well, we do it every year. I mean, it's usually around June, July. We start seeing contracts moving around. It's good news for Hendrick that they have Ally still there because that's obviously, when that contract with Mars and M&M's expired for Joe Gibbs, that was pretty much the end of Kyle Busch. We didn't know where he was going to go. Certainly didn't have RCR circled there. I mean, we saw the history with those guys, but it seemed like the right fit. But they're just not there. And I don't know what's missing. I think Richard Childress has thrown everything but the kitchen sink at it, and they just still can't find speed. They're not qualifying well, and even when they do, it's just so difficult for them to run up front. I mean, you look at his teammate, old Austin Dillon. Sure, he can be pretty good at places like Richmond, ran decent at Phoenix. That there's a couple tracks where there's a glimmer of hope for those guys, but you put a whole season together, it's when you're competing against 2311 and JGR and Hendrick Motorsports, they're way off.
They've shown some flashes over at Martinsville, which I'm really excited about because Martinsville is probably my favorite track. I claim that one as my home track, even though I don't really have a home track. I'm far away from all of them, but I claim that one as my home track. I love Martinsville. And, Kyle's been competitive there before. RCR in general has been. So if they can just rally behind him strong enough, maybe he can get a decent finish over in Martinsville.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, we go back a year ago. Old William Byron found victory lane there in the fall race, and Denny won it in the spring. So going back to our Hendrick and Joe Gibbs, I think you have to include 2311. I think they're going to be fast, but I'm not sleeping on Ryan Blaney. I think Ryan's got these flat tracks figured out. We've seen what he's done in Phoenix and New Hampshire. I expect the Penske boys to hopefully rebound. I mean, I say rebound. Austin Cindric did finish P5 here in Darlington, so good finish for him, but the 22's got to turn it around for sure. So my early pick, I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney for this weekend in Martinsville.
Ooh, taking them early before we could even jump in, Kevin. I see how you are, but no, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting race next week. I love the paper clip. It's just barely over a half a mile. We're gonna see a lot of trading paint there for sure. The straightaways, there is absolutely no banking whatsoever, and all four turns only have 12% banking. So it is going to be an interesting track. Now, as far as picks go, I don't know. I think I might let Sky go first. But, last year's spring race, we had three Toyotas up front. Bubba Wallace might be a good pick for this one. He finished P3. We had three Toyotas. Denny Hamlin won it, Christopher Bell, and then Bubba Wallace. And then we had two Chevys with Elliott and Larson. And then 03, actually, because Chastain finished in P6. And then Ryan Preece and Joey Logano and Fords. So is Ford going to step up this weekend in Martinsville? Hopefully they can. They got two guys in the top 10 from the last spring race. But Sky, I want to know who you're going to pick before I don't want to steal anything from you. Kevin already took your boy. So who are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to go with Bubba again. I feel like I jinxed him last week. I really thought he was going to win at Darlington. There's a lot of good people to pick from. I mean, Blaney is is one of the strongest picks, I think. I mean, he is really good at Martinsville. I know he didn't win the fall or spring race last year, but he is just so talented there. So he's a really good pick. You mentioned Christopher Bell. I feel like Bell is always a good pick. You look at Kyle Larson, who finished fifth both in the fall and spring. That's a really good pick. But, I had to hold my breath for a second. I did not choose Ryan Blaney, but when you said Ryan, I was like, oh gosh, because I'm going Ryan Preece in the 60. You know what? RFK's been on fire. I like to throw a little curveball, so that's who I think is going to win at Martinsville.
I would love to see that. That would be so awesome for him. I actually really, really like your picks, Guy. I love it. This is tough. I've been thinking about it because, like I said, the Toyotas are on fire, but 2311 just seems to have more than Joe Gibbs right now for some reason. Denny Hamlin's been running pretty strong. And yeah, he did win there in the spring. But I think this is going to be a weekend where Hendrick actually steps up. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to take the 5 car of Kyle Larson just because he had P5 last year. I think he's going to have P1 this coming weekend in Martinsville.
Yeah, it's classic Jeff pick going with the 5. I do think, Hendrick's been dominant in Martinsville over the years. We know that. They've racked up the grandfather clocks. I like the Ryan Priest picks, guy. I mean, we go back to the clash that started the year, over there at Bowman Gray, very flat, small quarter mile. We're going to a half mile. Kind of fits into his driving style a little bit. Came out of the New England area, New Hampshire Motor Speedway kind of fits his driving style. But look, Ryan Blaney led 177 laps here in the fall. Obviously, William Byron got the win, but I'm sticking with it. It's going to be a Penske Ford with Ryan Blaney.
Okay, well, hey man, the grandfather clock. This is actually my favorite trophy of the entire year. I just love the way it is, and Jeff Gordon's got them racked up over there. So anyway, guys, well, man, it's about time to turn the page, guys.
We are. I'm so excited. We've mentioned it before. I love Martinsville so much, and I want to ask the listeners. We were mentioning off the mic if we've ever had hot dogs from Martinsville. I've never. I know Jeff's never, but have you guys?
Yeah, we'll run like a poll on our social media for the Martinsville hot dogs. Have you had one? Have you not? Try one this weekend. I mean, they're $2, Jeff. It's the cheapest hot dogs of any sporting event in the country.
You paid $56 when we were in Phoenix last time for 3 hot dogs. So $56, how many hot dogs can you get that? I don't think I can eat $56 worth of hot dogs in Martinsville, guys.
That's one of the staples of the track. Never change, Martinsville. Hopefully we get some good weather this weekend. Keep that Mother Nature away. Should be good. The paperclip is always fun. A lot of action. I'm curious to see how this 750 package plays out, on this short track. Give those drivers a little bit more off the corner. Hopefully Goodyear brings a good tire. We see, a little bit of tire fall off and beating and banging. I mean, it's Martinsville. Tempers flare. There's probably going to be some storylines. Some drivers are going to be pissed off after, and that's why we love Martinsville. We'll be back next Monday night to break down all of the action from the paperclip. And be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Mash the Gas. Follow Sky over there at NASCAR Sky. Get yourself a hot dog. And until then, y'all.
Mash the Gas.